There's actually quite a bit of a difference when it comes to if you should hire a caregiver or if you should hire a CNA in your assisted living home, what the differences between the two are. So in this video, I'm actually going to explain that. What's up everyone? I hope you guys are all doing well. If you're new here, my name is Serge. Welcome to my channel. To all my reoccurring viewers, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you guys. To my new viewers, guys, I've actually created a Facebook group called Legion Assisted Living Academy, and you guys should go join it. It's free, so you guys might as well go do that. And let's go ahead and jump into the topic of this video. Let's go ahead and talk about the differences between a CNA and a caregiver. So we're going to go ahead and start with the CNA. A CNA is not a licensed personnel. So if someone comes to you and tells you that they're a licensed CNA, that's not the case. It is a certificate and a certification that they go and do about 3 months of training, and they take a test and they get certified as a nurse assistant. And the difference between a CNA and a caregiver when it comes to what they can do, a CNA will do everything from personal care, anything of hygiene, feeding, walking, assisting, anything of that activities of daily living requires. A CNA is able to do that. CNA can go do basic medical care, which is consisted of vital signs, anything measuring intake and output, measuring height and weight, anything of that sort, a CNA can actually go do. And depending on the state that they're in and that they get licensed in, you can actually go do more as a CNA, and whatever the protocols and the policies in a specific hospital or in a specific facility, a CNA is able to do more than that. But for our purposes here in a residential home, a CNA can really only do that, is the basic medical needs. Even though they go and actually do more training than a caregiver, that is really the extent of their scope of practice, is really just the basic medical needs, such as, like I mentioned, the vital signs, intake and output, anything of that sort. They can only really do that for the residents. But the thing is, a caregiver can actually go get certified for the same stuff, but actually be able to give medications. At least here in the state of Arizona, a caregiver can go get certified, and the state of Arizona does require, the Department of Health Services does require that you have caregivers on staff instead of CNAs, because caregivers are actually able to give medications to the residents, whereas the CNAs are not. And so it's very important that you check with your state regulations to see what they require you when it comes to staffing and hiring caregivers versus CNAs. But here in general, CNAs get paid about $2 more than caregivers. So financially, as a business, you want to be able to properly hire the right staff for your business and to make sure that they're able to do what you need them to do in your home. And you don't want to hire a CNA when you know that they're not allowed to pass any medications, because if you do hire any staff that can't pass medications, you are putting them at risk of losing their certification. So therefore, you don't want to waste any time with people that say that they're CNAs, but you are required to have caregivers, and vice versa. If your state does allow caregivers to pass medications, then in that case, you might as well hire CNAs instead of caregivers, and make sure that you guys are able to do that. And the difference between the caregiver and the CNA is really what they can do and what their scope of practice is. It varies very much state to state and facility to facility. And you have to make sure that you do just that. You make sure that you follow up with the regulations in your state. For instance, for me, I have caregivers at my home. I do not hire CNAs. I don't care to hire CNAs. And financially, you don't want to hire CNAs here in the state of Arizona, because you do have to pay them more. They are obligated to that pay. But they can't do all the tasks that I need them to do in my home. So therefore, it doesn't make sense for me to hire CNAs. but it makes sense for me to hire caregivers financially and also their scope of practice. So therefore, you have to just make that call. It's kind of hard to say, okay, well, if I just hire caregivers, what do I do with CNAs? They have more training, this and that. Just because they have more training does not mean that they're the right fit for your home and that they're the right fit for your business. And you just have to make sure that you abide by the rules of the state and by Department of Health Services. And you can't be making them do something out of their scope of practice. So guys, make sure that you guys understand that. So to pretty much sum this up, a CNA can do all the personal care for the resident, and then they can do all the basic medical needs such as vital signs, etc. with more training. They have more training under their belt than a caregiver. And so a caregiver actually does just the same amount of things, personal care, all that. And on top of it, they can do all the basic medical needs, but then they can also pass the medications. So in my opinion and in my perspective and my suggestion for homeowners that are looking to hire staff, I would first check with your state, see what is required of the CNAs and if it's in their scope of practice to pass medications. You will have to pass medications in your home, and so you want to make sure you get the proper staff for that and that you don't hire CNAs and then end up putting them at risk and also your license at risk, your business license at risk by hiring the wrong staff. So it is very critical that you guys understand that and understand that there's not much of a difference between caregivers and CNAs other than the amount of training to get their certifications and also what their scope of practice is. CNAs seem to be more limited when it comes to the things that they can do in facilities in general. I know it can vary a lot. I know as a CNA, I've worked as a CNA. I haven't ever really worked as a caregiver per se, just a little bit in my home, but not much. But when I worked as a CNA, when I was a nurse, or when I was a nursing student, when I was a nursing student, my facility allowed that to where I could actually do certain tasks like, insert a catheter with the nurse supervising, just because I was a nursing student and I have been an aide or had been an aide for so long. They allowed that within the scope of practice, but also within their policies. They allowed me to do that, and they also allowed me to do, just simple IV stuff and different things of that sort that I was learning in nursing school and was able to implement, in an ICU with a nurse's supervision. So, you had to get, obviously, you would have to get permission from the nurse manager of that unit and everything of that sort. So it does vary. I know in other states and other facilities, they probably wouldn't have allowed that, and they probably do allow that, and you're able to do a lot more. I know I did catheters all the time, inserting them, so that was just part of it, and you get to do certain things like that. But just make sure you guys understand, as for the purposes of residential assisted living, you want to make sure that you abide, again, by the state laws and by their regulations, and make sure you hire the right staff, guys. That's probably the most critical thing, I would say. And in my perspective, caregivers, you can hire them for cheaper, and they are able to do more tasks and are able to do more tasks than CNAs, and they're able to do their training quicker than CNAs. So CNAs usually go and get their certification because they want to work in a hospital and not in a residential home like this, or for just assisted living facilities. They want to work, for different like hospices, home care, and hospitals, because they do get paid more, and they get to have the benefits of working for bigger facilities like that. So that's why usually people go and get their CNA certification instead of their caregiver certification. And yeah, guys, that is pretty much it. That's all I can really elaborate on this topic of caregivers and CNAs. Hopefully this was insightful and helpful. If it was, make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well. And don't forget, guys, go join that Facebook group called Legion Assisted Living Academy. And I will see you guys all in the next video. God bless. Peace.